Anaheim 5-4 winners over Arizona. John Gibson gets the win, and it was Los Angeles 2-0 over Philly.
Hi, Mike.
Phill Gray, thanks for joining us on RawMikeRichards.com. How do you know it was us?
It was just a wild guess.
Yeah,
It caught me by surprise last week, but I'm
not. Oh, you're tough to fool. By the way, say hi to your sister Sasha for us, because we're big fans.
We're not going to go there.
No, are we not? Okay. All right, we won't go along. Now, and
the fact that I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't even hide it.
Because you're the man. Yeah, come on. Huh?
Yeah, you got to like that. Looking at some of the numbers that, actually, some of them we have to wait for. Now, we're taking a look at that Miami number. When do you think that actually hits the board? Like, do you have a feeling? How does it work in your world when you know a number is going to actually show up?
You can get to some of the brick and mortar shops in Vegas now, and it's out there. I think they're even laying a field goal, so you could get kind of C-3 right now. I think offshore is going to wait, which is typical, until we get a definite decision on Mariota right now. But I would expect that is going to open probably around a field goal if he's playing.
I also see that there's a huge trend in what looks like in terms of the totals dropping. And you know what, Phil, at least from our perspective, and maybe not just necessarily a gaming perspective, but I think there's a lot of sloppy football being played right now. And look, with some of the quarterbacks being hurt, obviously, offensively, that's got to come down as well. But I think the level of football, to me, again, this is from the viewer standpoint, from the more, not the gaming world, but watching as a sport, some of these teams, quite frankly, just don't look ready. And the level of football, I think, has been relatively poor in the first 4 weeks.
I only look at things from a gaming viewpoint, Mike. You know that. And traditionally, you're going to see the average better. Everything trends to the over. Then you will see, as the number gets inflated, you'll see closer to kickoff, the sharp money is going to come in. So I thought I could give you. We do on the other show. We do what's called the early bird, where I get Steve Rapp in his 70 years of betting experience, some early lines to move on. So I thought we could do something with you. We'll call it Mike's Movers. What do you think?
Oh, Mike's Movers. I like that. It. Let's
Dr. Phil, we're in. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Mike's Movers.
I've got some NFL totals for you people and your listeners and our bettors tonight that I think might move this week. As we got Carolina and Detroit sitting at 42.5 right now. I would expect that could maybe even move a full point or point and a half. Jacksonville and Pittsburgh as well, sitting on 42. I think that's kind of low with that Jacksonville offense. I think that could, again, move another point and a half on the over. These are all overs. Seattle and the Rams sitting at 46.5 right now. Jared Goff, the rookie story of the year for sure. Seattle came back with a great game last year. I think that's going to move, again, probably a half point or a point. Green Bay at Dallas. This is one of those ones I was talking about where you're going to see public and sharp money. It's sitting on 52.5 right now. I would think the public's going to push that maybe up to 53.5, maybe even 54, and then you're going to see just before kickoff, it's going to drop back again. I think the same thing in KC and Houston. That's going to be a slugfest. 45.5 without those two quarterbacks playing really good right now. I would have expected that total to come in at maybe 42.5, 43. I would think we're going to see some early money on that. It's going to push it up to maybe 47. And again, I think like the Green Bay Dallas game, you're going to see some sharp money that's going to come back under.
Interesting. Mike's Movers for a debut.
Like that.
Nice job, Dr. Phil.
Mike's Movers.
Yeah.
Hey, brilliant.
Phil, can you tell us about that Cleveland number? Early in the week, if you bought onto it, the Cleveland Browns were actually the favorites in this Jets-Browns game, a game nobody will be watching except me. Now we're looking at it as the Jets as the favorite. That must mean a lot of money has come in, and are you surprised by this?
It's going to be for certain our lowest handle of the week, and I don't think the NFL is going to like the ratings on that game. Again, you're the only ones going to be watching. It's not really a game. It's going to be on my radar. It's going to hover around pick. I don't really expect to see any sharp or public action either way getting closer to kickoff.
Interesting, because you almost look at that, and as a rule of thumb, when Cleveland's the favorite, a lot of people are going in the opposite direction. So you look at that, and it's kind of changed things around. What other liabilities are we looking at for the house this weekend that you're kind of paying attention to on this Friday?
It's why I'm in such a great mood this morning, why I actually answered my phone after New England won and covered last night. We saw a great deal of late Tampa Bay money, which balanced out the book great for us. And I closed a full point and a half above the total at 55.5, and we're still seeing late overwhelming money on the over. So you got a bookie who's in a good mood this morning. And also, I'm looking at the books right now, and this is the week of parity that's come to the NFL. I'm only looking at 2 games right now that are worrisome at all. Buffalo and Cincinnati. We're on 3 now. I expect that to get back closer to 2.5 with a serious liability on Buffalo. It may even drop below that. I'm seeing it some of the sharper books right now. Arizona traveling to the east to play Philadelphia. 6.5. I'm heavily juiced on that right now. I'm thinking that's going to get on a 7. I'm seeing across the board some of the books juicing 7 as well. So that could even cross 7 and get to 7.5 by game time on the Eagles.
Interesting.
Well, Carolina at Detroit, and of course, one of the big stories coming out was Cam Newton and his basically his degrading comments towards the female reporter who asked a good question. He thought it was funny that a sports reporter that was female used the word routes, which made no sense at all. He looked like garbage. He comes back with one of those apology that's so conducted. This is something that it's like a play that you knew was coming and you don't want to see. I don't think in the gaming world does that really mean anything as they go into to face a really good Detroit team that I think they're going to have a tough time with anyway. Does that sway one way or the other odds makers?
No, not really. I mean, you really don't see any. Even the average gamblers get into anything political. And absolutely, he's a smart guy. What was he thinking? I have no idea. But that's not for me to say. But I think that win over New England pushed that number down for sure. Because if they hadn't done that, Detroit is 3.5. That's one of the games I'm picking the total to go up on now that you see that Carolina offense maybe coming together.
The Rams have had a pretty good history against Seattle, even when the Rams used to be the Rams, and we're talking about the last 3 or 4 years. Now they're favorites at home to Seattle. Where's the money coming in on this one, Phil? This is my game of the week, by the way. I like this game even more than what a lot of people will like with the public game is Green Bay and Dallas.
This is a game that seems to be booking itself again, sitting on pick, and Jared Goff finally looking like the number 1 pick that he was. Great game from Seattle last week, but I think it's just going to book itself right to the end. I'm just going to hover around pick. I don't see it leaning any way. If it did one way, I'd open up the money line and try and balance it against. That's one of the games as well I'm picking to go over.
Phil, can you say with any sort of, accuracy from year to year, but generally we call certain teams public. We know who they're going to be. But by teams playing better, and sometimes I think it's also longevity. So if I look at Atlanta, who's played probably some of their better football, Detroit is playing maybe their best football ever, do those teams fall into a category that kind of makes them a public team?
No, not really. You don't see that, Mike. There's just traditionally teams, and it may take a season or two for some teams to become a public team, like Oakland this week and Baltimore. They're still, that now over last couple of years and with the buzz about them, they're considered a public team. So even without Carr, who is worth a field goal plus, that game's sitting under 3 now. But I could see it getting back on the feet because Oakland is still kind of considered for lack of a better word, we've used it before. It's kind of stupid, but a sexy team with the average better. And you see that with Dallas, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. It doesn't matter who they're playing, and sometimes it doesn't matter who the spread is, or what the spread is, that we just can't balance those games. We saw it with Green Bay last year, and we got killed on a couple of Sunday night games. I think they were playing the Giants, and it sat on 3, and they should have really been. Good gosh, it should have been a 2-score game, and we just could not balance that book. Nobody moved. It was rock solid, and you end up losing your shirt on those late games with all the parlays kicking in when a fave public team like that covers, and a few others do. Now with New England covering last night, we're going to be sitting on some parlays for the weekend because everybody likes to load up on the faves.
They do. I got nothing right now. We're closed in the Chicago game on Monday night, correct?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And why is that?
It's the Sam Bradford waiting game. We're still waiting to hear. Nobody's got that line out. Like nobody.
Part 4, eh? Sam Bradford. We're going to be playing that waiting game probably the entire season, I'm guessing.
It looks that way. I mean, that injury may be a little bit more than they're telling us because this late, it's a Friday and that game is still down. I mean, there's a couple of books hanging at 3.5 on Minnesota, but I'm not going to go there. I'll keep it off the board until we have some concrete info.
Hey, Phil, thanks so much for joining us here on rawmikeRichards.com. We always appreciate it, as this is a very busy weekend. Of course, you're going to show up on Inside the Lines with Dave and old Uncle Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. That's Phill Gray from Sports Interaction, the senior lines manager.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.